Hello. Joining us today for a conversation on sustaining reliability is Paula Hollywood, Senior Field Systems Analyst with ARC Advisory Group. Welcome, Paula.
Thank you, Russell.
Paula, let's get right to it. What are the key drivers behind initiating a reliability project?
Well, manufacturers are faced with many challenges these days. If they have not right-sized or downsized by this point in time, particularly in light of the most recent economic downturn, they will be. Reliability is a means of improving productivity, increasing uptime, decreasing the risk of unscheduled downtime, and it is one of the few initiatives that a manufacturer can instill that will actually save them money, and the impact can be felt directly on the bottom line. Now, what is reliability? Reliability is having the faith that the equipment is going to work and be available when it needs to be. The same as your car. You have your car serviced on a regular basis to make sure that it doesn't fail on you. You have checkups at the doctor to make sure that your blood pressure and your triglycerides and those kinds of things are fine, because we don't want our hearts failing. The same is true in manufacturing for the equipment that they use. It has to be available, it has to do its job, it has to perform. So that's what reliability is all about, making sure that those assets that are most valuable and most critical in particular are always available when they need to be.
Do you feel that an enterprise is advised to embark on the kind of reliability project that you're talking about without a documented business case?
I think because it's not a trivial matter, it's not an inexpensive pursuit, that you do have to have a business case. I think that presenting all the facts and figures will get the C-level executives on board, because the benefits of reliability are so great that it's hard to imagine a scenario where they would not approve the funds to embark on this particular initiative. So I don't see that happening.
Well, let's talk about the kind of solutions that might be involved. What are the most popular ones?
Well, there's preventive maintenance, which is very much like going to the doctor. You check and test and monitor the equipment to make sure that it's working, that it sounds right, it feels right, it's not vibrating too much, it's not making too much noise, so that the bearings should be fine, it's not leaking, or those types of things, so that the operator is familiar with it and knows that it's going to be okay. There's also something called predictive maintenance, which also has its complement of testing and monitoring. There's something that's very much related to that. It's called condition-based monitoring, which is a more systematic approach to assessing asset health. And we also have operator-driven reliability, in which case the operator of the plant is crossing the lines into maintenance, if you will, but he is familiar with the equipment so that he can make some judgment calls as to what's happening with a piece of equipment. So there's many things that are available. So many plants use a combination of things, of techniques, and one of them that I omitted was actually reliability-centered maintenance. And that is a more systematic approach to asset health, and allows manufacturers and operators and maintenance departments to plan their maintenance activities a little more closely than they would otherwise without that tool. So that is also very popular as well.
Well, now, which industries do you think stand to gain the most from the kind of reliability solutions that you've just outlined for us, and why is that?
Asset-intensive industries, where there are a lot of rotating equipment, things with a lot of bearings, a lot of moving parts, things that break down, are industries that would be prime for reliability. And whether it is equipment to manufacture machinery or whatever, food, doesn't really matter. But the rotating pieces of equipment are extremely asset intensive. Also, fleets, it could be a fleet of automobiles, it could be a fleet of airplanes, it could be in the mining industry with all kinds of earth-moving equipment. So those types of industries with a lot of assets, things like chemical, pulp and paper, mining, those kinds of things, where the equipment is expensive and you want to keep it running. You want to extend the life of that asset.
Well, clearly I'm going to need some KPIs to tell me if I'm successful. So what are the key performance indicators I need to know about?
Obviously, the key performance indicators of an organization are going to depend on what the priorities of that organization are and what their goals are. But there are some common ones, things like uptime. Unscheduled downtime is a good indication of if your equipment is operating properly. Some of the more common ones are return on investment or overall equipment effectiveness, things like total cost of ownership. It would seem that that would be a logical KPI to use, to measure, because that would help manufacturers understand the cost of that asset over its entire life cycle. But unfortunately, ARC research indicates that that's not as popular as perhaps it should be. And I think that in order to truly get a good picture of what it costs to run that asset, you really have to look at it over its life cycle as opposed to a purchase price. So the reluctance, it seems, on the part of manufacturers to use that indicator is perhaps an indication that many are still buying on initial purchase price versus the cost of the asset over its life cycle.
Final question, Paula. Is there a benefit to having a chief reliability officer or a corporate reliability team, if you will?
We certainly believe that there is, Russ, because someone needs to be a champion. Someone needs to be accountable. Someone needs to be a motivator for the troops. And that generally is the chief reliability officer. He can set the goals, determine the priorities, and perhaps his most important role, or the most important role, be it him or her, is to be a facilitator. Because reliability crosses many disciplines, primarily operations and maintenance. And because there are different disciplines involved, there will be conflicting priorities. And that is one of the greatest issues that will sink a reliability initiative. So you really need to have someone to shepherd the way, resolve those conflicts, and move on. And certainly in determining what the priorities of the reliability initiative are, the cross-functional team is the best approach because there are so many disciplines involved.
Well, this has been some highly useful information today, Paula. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Russell.
Paula Hollywood, ARC Advisory Group, speaking with us today about sustaining reliability. Thanks for watching.